Hello everyone, and welcome to this audio podcast. This audio podcast as part of the Calyces Chronicle series. This audio podcast as part of a MaelZtorm Cortex, as part of MaelZtorm Cortex. This audio podcast as part of a labanostics analysis, and this audio podcast as part of a Storm Robotics production. In this audio podcast, an intro to peer review works from 2012. And around 2012, we're looking at how young people cope with CKD. When the original peer review works was peer reviewed and published in a journal in around 2012, where original peer review works was a collaborative looking at sort of how young people cope with CKD. So, in around the intro, it have been reported that the incidence of renal replacement therapy, or RRT, in young people is or have been around 7 to 8 per a million population, or 7 to 8 per million population below the age of 16 years. Yes, below the age of 16 years. Frequencies can fluctuate around 55 and 62 per million population. 40 years ago, young people with CKD had died. Now morbidity has improved by the availability of multiple treatment modalities. In majority, young people, however, are tested with kidney replacement modalities, which remain some of the foremost effective modalities in around treatments. So pediatric kidney teams endeavor to identify suitable donors in around for recipients around transplantation, where transplantation as a form of a replacement modality or treatment modality, generally as quick as possible, owing to recipients and patients survival depend on depend on depend on renal transplant depend on renal transplant. At the same time, young people with CKD can be challenged with attaining point development for example, in around around well-being, and general healthcare in around general healthcare spheres. Young people also require time to deal with illness or accompanying disability. Coping processes in young people with chronic conditions or long-standing conditions like CKD are extremely pertinent in the area of clinical medicine and in around aspects of psychology. The lasting prognosis rate among young people needing renal replacement therapy, or RT, had been evidenced at around 79% in the first decade, and around 66% in around the second decade. Despite progress in prognosis, young people with CKD and family members are still can be under under tension. And because young people with CKD undergo a variety of treatments, in around treatments and care pathways, a literature review was required. A literature review was required to understand coping and what had been documented in the young CKD population. That draws this audio podcast to a close. This audio podcast as part of the Calyces Chronicle series. This audio podcast as part of MaelZtorm Cortex. This audio podcast as part of a labanostics analysis, and this audio podcast as part of a storm robotics production.